We're waiting one more member who should be with us momentarily, and then we will begin the meeting. Thanks for your attendance and for your patience. Being the special meeting of the Economic Development Committee on Tuesday, September the 19th, joined by my colleagues Joe Busciano and Jose Huizar. And we appreciate your presence as well. If you'd like to speak, there are comment cards, and we invite you to fill them out for an opportunity to speak. We appreciate any and all input. So, Mr. Clerk, why don't you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Price?
Here.
Councilmember Busciano?
Here.
Councilmember Huizar?
Here.
Okay. Do we have any comment cards this time?
We have two definites, and we're trying to clarify numbers. Okay.
All right, so we've got four cards. Let's ask Sean Williams and Melanie Franklin. Who was speaking on item 1?
Yep. I don't know if I can speak for her or not.
No, speak for yourself.
Melinda is joining us. I represent Airlines for America, the major U.S. airline. Melinda was asking if she could yield her time to me and combine them. Is that possible?
Not possible,
Okay.
but I'm sure you can convey her feelings as well.
I will. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Sean Williams. I represent Airlines for America, the major trade association of the domestic U.S. airlines, passenger and cargo. We have a few concerns with the proposed ordinance that are before you today. I want to lay out at first that we are not opposed to the citywide minimum wage that was passed 2 years ago. What we are opposed to are several provisions that are very concerning to us in the bill and the proposed ordinance. One of them is that you're adding a $2 per hour surcharge on tenants at the airport. There's no justification from a policy or legal perspective, from our perspective, that justifies that. Number two, we are concerned about a collective bargaining agreement carve-out is literally an exemption for companies that are represented by labor unions. I'm aware, I'm sure as you are, from a few years ago when the proposal was considered for the minimum wage that there was a lot of opposition to providing an exemption for union companies.
There is, if you want to wrap up your comment, you're over your 1 minute.
We would suggest that you, if you're going to apply this new living wage ordinance, that you apply it to all. And lastly, we would ask that if you're going to have a health care requirement, that you have an actual health policy, a minimum standards policy, similar to what San Francisco Airport has, rather than a cash requirement.
Okay.
So
Thank
that
you.
people actually get health care.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Any questions?
Okay, is it Maria Rubello? Okay. Ampano Ramirez? Sandra Martinez? And Rafael Leon. Just identify yourself, please.
There will be translation.
Okay. Would you?
I will provide.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Amparo Ramirez, and I work for Sky Chef. And I'm here because we are working, and we need your support, guys, for the living wage. And we really need you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mi nombre es Sandra Martínez y estoy aquí porque necesito la ayuda de ustedes. El voto, el sueldo mínimo no es muy poco. Yo soy una madre soltera. Tengo mi hijo de 20 años y tengo que ayudarlo para su educación y es muy difícil para mí entre la renta y los gastos de su estudio. Gracias.
My name is Sandra Martinez. I work for LSG Sky Chef. I need your support to start making the living wage at the airport because I'm a single mother. My son is going to college, and it's really hard for me to help him by me making the minimum wage. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you both. Is that Rafael?
Yes.
And Maria.
Oh, and Maria. Okay, yes.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Rafael Leon, and I'm working for Flying Food Group. I am a cook for the airlines. I would just like to ask for your support for this matter. It'll be a great idea to have health insurance for my family. I have a family of 4, and the minimum wage is not enough to make a living in LA anymore. And I really appreciate it for your time and for your support.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Maria Rebolledo, and I work for Flying Food Group. I assemble the equipment for the airlines, which provide comfort for the passengers. After our first negotiation, we did get a raise. It was just a couple of dollars, but it did make a difference in the economic standard of my home. Basically, we're just looking for your support because even though those were $2 above that raise, it made a difference in our home. So again, we're just looking for your support to help us with this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, great. Hey, Annabelle Gonzalez and Armando Munoz. Aquí.
Good morning. My name is Annabelle Gonzalez. I'm a cabin cleaner in the International Terminal, Tom Bradley. I have worked there for almost 14 years now. I'm here to try and help you guys understand why it's so important for the living wage to go up in the airport. Our jobs are, how can I say, they're very important because we don't just only take care of the cleaning, but we also take care of the security of the airport. We look for bombs. We look for any suspicious items inside the aircrafts. All of this, we do it also having to take care of ourselves not to get poked with any sharp objects. Sometimes we have to be working short staff because a lot of people don't want to stick around because they feel like it's not enough money that they're getting paid for all that responsibility, the stress. Because we always have to finish the flights in X amount of time.
Again, what do you do?
I do cabin cleaner, but we also
Cabin cleaner.
Yes, but we also do the security search in the airplane.
Understood, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Armando Munoz, and I've been working for the airport for the past 7 years. The reason why these increases are so important is because, it helps us to provide for our families. Additionally, a decent wage helps us limit the number of turnover of employees that we're facing with. We have young airport workers that don't take the job seriously because they compare their wages with someone that works at Little Caesars. What many people don't realize is that airport workers are the first responders in many emergencies at the airport, as has been demonstrated with previous incidents that we have had. You can't depend the safety of a passenger to an airport worker that's been there less than 3 months and doesn't take their airport safety seriously. Increasing the minimum wage will help us keep our beautiful LAX safe. Please help us to support us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any other cards?
No, Councilman.
No other cards? Okay, that will close the comment. Members, if there's no objection, I'd like to take up items 2, 3, and 4 on consent. 2, 3, and 4.
Move the items, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Thank you. I will, that will be the order. Appreciate your support. And then let's take up the next item, Mr. Clerk.
Item number 1, CLA to report, city attorney reports and ordinances relative to amending the Los Angeles Administrative Code, sections 10.36 and 10.37 relating to service worker contractor worker retention and the living wage.
Okay, do we have a report from the CLA or city attorney for both? We know this is an issue, it's of great import to not just the workers, but to the city. And we want to make sure that we're progressing in a way that is respectful and responsible for all parties involved. And so we look forward to your report this time. Thank you.
Of course, thank you, sir. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Steve Liu from the Office of the Chief Legislative Analyst, and I am joined by Ms. Danya Manasian from the Office of the City Attorney. Our office has prepared a report before your consideration today concerning the impacts of increasing the living wage ordinance's airport living wage. On June 30th, 2017, the Council adopted the Economic Development Committee report, which approved recommendations from Motion Martinez, Price, Wesson, Bond, and Harris Dawson and Cedillo, requesting the City Attorney to amend the airport living wage rate, increase the annual health benefit to match the percentage increases to the CPIU for medical care services, incorporate a supersession clause for collective bargaining agreements, require emergency response training for airport contract employees, and make additional technical amendments to the Service Contractor Worker Retention Ordinance as identified by the Bureau of Contract Administration. One of the changes to the living wage ordinance's airport living wage is an increase to the airport living wage rate itself. Per the motion, in order to maintain an airport living wage rate above the minimum wage for airport contract employees, the airport living wage rate should be increased in equal annual increments until such rates are an amount $2 or above the minimum wage by July 1, 2021. In order to achieve this, the proposed ordinance increases the wage rate in equal annual increments of $1.23 per hour beginning July 1, 2018 as follows. On July 1, 2018, the wage rate will be $13.31. On July 1, 2019, the wage rate would be $14.54. On July 1, 2020, the wage rate would be $15.77. And on July 1, 2021, it would be $17 per hour, which is $2 above the minimum wage. By increasing the living wage rate for airport employees, low-wage airport workers, which include cabin cleaning workers, baggage handlers, and individuals who work for restaurants and food and bar, will be able to have more spending power to contribute to broader economic impacts, as well as reduce the economic distress experienced by their households from low wages and fewer hours worked. According to LAWA, an increased airport living wage would result in increased labor costs and expenses for LAWA and their contractors. LAWA indicates that impacts from an increased airport living wage rate should be minor in the first several years as the differential between the wages is minimal. However, as collective bargaining agreements expire, cost impacts from an increased airport living wage rate will climb as wages will be renegotiated for airport employees and for employers to, at a minimum, pay the applicable living wage rate. LAWA staff indicate that the full annual cost impact of an increased airport living wage rate for landside contracts alone, which includes parking lot management, shuttles, and flyaway buses, is estimated at $5.8 million per year by the year 2025 to 2026, and may continue to increase as collective bargaining agreements expire. Due to these increased costs, airport contractors may experience lower profits, reduce hours worked by employees, or pass these costs onto the consumer. LAWA staff has also indicated that airport contractors have requested to renegotiate their current contracts in anticipation for the new airport living wage rate to offset these increased labor costs and potentially have LAWA absorb these increased expenses. The impact on who will absorb these costs in the full extent is currently under assessment by LAWA and is unknown. An additional amendment to the living wage ordinance's airport living wage.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Mr. Chair, if I can? What's unknown that law was?
What's unknown is who's going to fully absorb the cost impacts of the increased labor costs from the airport living wage. An additional amendment to the living wage ordinance's airport living wage is the adjustment to the annual health benefits and the increases to match these annual increases to the Bureau of Labor Statistics CPI for medical care services. Currently, annual health benefit increases are adjusted annually to correspond with adjustments to retirement benefits paid to members of LACERS, which are capped at 3% per the restrictions of the LA Administrative Code Section 4.1022. Corresponding adjustments to the CPI for medical care services may be a more accurate indicator of changes in health costs, as it specifically measures changes to medical care services rather than an aggregate of all goods and services in the United States. The CPI for medical care services has experienced an average increase since 2000 of 3.98%. By corresponding adjustments to CPI for medical care services, there will be no restrictions on future increases to healthcare contributions, as they will no longer be capped at 3% when it corresponded with LACERS contributions, resulting in contractors potentially experiencing increased healthcare costs. The City Attorney's proposed ordinance also contains an amendment which includes a clause that allows for an express supersession by collective bargaining agreement. In order for airport employees and their employers to supersede from the provisions of the living wage ordinance, employees must be paid a wage not less than the applicable living wage rate. Additionally, employers who are airline food caterers may only supersede from the living wage ordinance by collective bargaining agreement if they pay their employees a total economic package that is not less than applicable living wage rate plus the additional health wage rate. In agreeing to an express supersession by collective bargaining agreement, airport employers and employees could negotiate to be exempted from the compensated time off, uncompensated time off, or BCA enforcement provisions of the living wage ordinance. Lastly, the proposed ordinance also includes a provision that mandates certified service provider license agreement employers to provide their employees 16 hours of mandated compensated release time for emergency response training. The additional 16 hours of compensated release time should not be included as a portion of the 96 hours of compensated time off as is currently required by the living wage ordinance. And that concludes the extent of our report, and we're here to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Okay, thank you. What's the significance then of the minimum wage rate surpassing the living wage rate? Give us some context for that.
Well, if could you repeat your question? Sorry.
Yeah, the significance of the minimum wage rate surpassing the living wage rate.
If one of the potential impacts if the minimum wage surpasses the living wage rate is that there would be a wage discrepancy that may be experienced by employees, and it will cause confusion amongst employers as to what wages should be paid to their employees. So, for example, if an airport employee is going to be paid $12.08 this year, but then the minimum wage is going to be at $13.25, and they're within the city, which is within LAWA, the employer and the employer are not going to know what they're actually going to be owed and what they're going to be paid. Under the living wage, they should be paid the living wage rate. However, since they're within the geographical locations of the minimum wage and of the city, they should be paid the $13.25. And my colleague at the city attorney could further expound on that if she wants to. But
good afternoon, council members. Danya Minasian, city attorney. If the minimum wage is made in the context of a regulatory ordinance, it's in the Muni Code, it's not in the admin code. So contractors would still have to, for those employees that qualify as a capital E employee under the minimum wage, which means you have to work 2 hours within the city boundaries in a given week, then those employees would be entitled to the minimum wage regardless of what the living wage is. The living wage has with it additional benefits of compensated time off, uncompensated time off, that is, it's more than what the minimum wage provides. So it would cause a lot of confusion amongst employers in terms of what wage rate would apply to their employees and whether their employees would qualify as an employee under the minimum wage as opposed to the living wage.
And if express suppression is agreed upon by the collective bargaining agreement, what can the employees and employers supersede from exactly? What are they getting out of?
So the supersession language for collective bargaining agreements is to supersede the living wage ordinance. It would include the compensated time off, uncompensated time off, potentially the health benefit to the extent that the unions may provide some other benefits that confer similar types of benefits. The language that is proposed for the airport contractors is that they would still have to pay the wage rate, but everything in excess of the wage rate that is afforded in the living wage ordinance could be worked around or worked through your union so that you can get different benefits or a different kind of value for what is being provided in the ordinance.
Okay. Members, any questions?
I had a question, if I may, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your report. Thank you to those who came to testify on both the labor and business side. Really appreciate your presence. When the city of LA raised the minimum wage and that fight for 15, we, the city council, along with the mayor, supported raising the wage. But in so, we demanded a number of reports that came back to council, multiple economic impact reports, even a peer review that was presented to the council. Has there been any of the similar reports? I know Beacon Economics is very active when we raise the minimum wage in the city of Los Angeles. Have we seen any of these types of peer reviews or economic impact reports come to be a part of this item before us?
Specifically as it pertains to LAWA and the City of Los Angeles, there has not been a peer review, but there has been a peer review or a review done by the Economic Roundtable on the potential impacts it might have on airport workers in other airports throughout the country.
Sure. And the reason why I support it, I mean, when you pay people more money, they're going to be spending more money. And I've dealt with poverty as a police officer, and that's the reason why I support it. But again, if we have to do our due diligence in moving forward on something like this. You mentioned that LAWA does not know who is going to absorb the costs of these wage increases. Is anyone here from LAWA? I know we have a T3 committee in the next half hour. So has there been any sort of outreach on this? Do we talk to the airlines, contractors, LAWA staff? Oh, Mark's here.
Come on up, please.
Good afternoon, Mark Adams, Los Angeles World Airports Government Affairs. I was in the overflow room, so I'm not sure I heard the whole question.
Got it. So in raising the wages here with our airport, our contractors, report from the CLA indicated that LAWA does not know who is going to absorb these costs when the wages are increased. Is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, the costs will be incurred by a variety of tenants and contractors and airlines and other stakeholders at the airport, and what each of those stakeholders does relative to either absorbing the costs or passing them on to their customers, or subcontractor passing it on to the prime contractor, or what have you. We're not sure how that would all fall out at this point. We do know that we've heard from a number of our stakeholders that there would be increased costs. A lot of those haven't been fully quantified yet, but we're looking to, get some sort of assessments from our.
No, we don't have that. I mean,
we don't
as
have,
I mentioned
we don't
before
have,
you walked in the room, Mark, when we raised the minimum wage in the city of Los Angeles, supported that effort, but we did so where we were able to do our due diligence, get a number of economic impact reports, including a peer review. And you're telling me that has not been done here?
No, we've received reports back from some of our contractors, as Mr. Liu described, some of our direct contractors, the parking lot operators, the bus operators, things like that. But I don't know if there's been, I'm not aware of any sort of comprehensive economic assessment of this.
Okay. So the modernization of LAX is alive and well. It's happening. Billions of dollars being invested in the infrastructure. The costs that will be passed on to the airlines through higher landing fees and lease costs, and ultimately to the consumer. Has there been an analysis on how the modernization program combined with the living wage increase will affect ticket prices?
Specifically ticket prices? No. We've obviously run financial models to determine what our costs would be, and tried to project that out in terms of what the impact would be on certain metrics, whether it be landing fees and such like that. But then how that translates to the ticket holders, that would be something that would be up to the airlines.
And then lastly, if I can, Mark, I don't know if you have to answer this question, but how do we compare, competitive-wise, compared to other airports in doing business at LAX? Were we more competitive, less competitive based on pricing at the airport?
Historically, our cost per in-plane passenger has been, I think, very competitive with other large airports. As we go through our building process and we invest a lot in our infrastructure, those costs will rise somewhat. We don't, we're hopeful that the way we're doing our program, so we can keep the costs contained, and I think we're hopeful that LAX will remain a competitive airport in the future if we exhibit, good cost controls on our development programs.
Okay. I know just questions that I had, Mr. Chair. I'll kick it over to you. I'm hoping to have a little bit more information before we move forward.
No, thank you. Thanks for your questions. I think we all want to just better understand what the impacts are going to be. We all have certainly supported the increasing the minimum wage citywide and at the airport specifically. And I certainly appreciated the comments, the compelling testimony that we've heard from workers. I understand that the union and airport contractors are still in discussion, trying to iron out the details and see if we can reach some consensus as we move forward. And so with that, colleagues, I'm going to recommend that we note and file the CLA report and that we continue this item to give the parties a chance to continue to refine and clarify and come up with a proposal, again, that meets the needs of both the airline providers, carriers, contractors, and union workers. And I think giving us another couple of weeks to iron those issues out will be beneficial. And so unless there's an objection, members?
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, would that include the full economic impacts or analysis in that report?
Not a full impact, no, but we are continuing to have discussions about what the impact is going to be.
Understood.
And receiving input from the
From both
airport
sides.
contractors and from the unions, correct.
Very good.
In other words, better equipping us with the information to make a decision.
Sure.
And if there's no objection, that will be the order. Okay? Excellent. Mr. Clerk, is there anything else for the committee at this time?
Nothing more, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, members.
Thanks, Charlie.